Hey, it's me, that person, trying to help us all make it out of the darkness alive, or inspired or empowered, however you look at it. But I just wanted to share with you because I'm on day 5. And it's like the more that I try to convince myself, like, my habits don't control me, I have the control to make the choice. It's almost like the devil's like, but hey, you don't. Hey. And it might be I'm overthinking it, or I'm trying to prove something to myself. I don't know how many of you are going through this as well. There's also things going on in the planetary systems and the energies that come to us that affect us. But either way it goes, day 5, and I've basically been like, just, and normally the way I deal with that is sit down and have a beer or two. Calm down, relax, I think we all tend to find something that relaxes us. But when you start doing like I'm doing and going, but that's an issue for me, I need to find better ways to relax. All of a sudden, you can't relax. And it's like I just told a friend of mine that, when you're about to make that leap to that change, right? When you're like, I can do better than this. That's where the linebackers start coming in like, hey, nope, get around me. And the devil's like, hey, psst, psst, psst. And it's like, get the fuck away from me. Like, I'm trying my best to do what is best for me. The more we try to do what is best for us is where we begin to step back and be like, but it was easier that way. I mean, that's the thing. It's always easier the way it was because that's what made you comfortable. But when you're trying to move forward, level up, integrate yourself with your higher self, there's things you have to sacrifice. And that's the hard part. And right now I'm in this pool, like, and it feels like that. It doesn't even feel like that. It just feels like, almost like being in a grinder, something that's trying to stop me from achieving my goals. And of course, that's what's going on. It's that negative energy, what we call the devil, right? The setback. But I've been at a point for a long time where I'm doing this number. I take a step back, take 2 steps forward, take a step back, take 2 steps forward. And it's a slow process of really getting nowhere very slowly. And that is that karmic wheel of staying stuck in a mindset. And it's hard when you want to break out of that mindset and you're doing it by yourself, And I've been getting comments from some of you that are dealing with other people that have addictions and it's not your battle. And that's admirable of you, especially if you can learn to understand what they're going through. Because you have to understand when you're with somebody that is an addict, you're going to see their behavior begin to change. And then when they're about to relapse. And the hard part is not telling them anything, letting them make their choice. Because they're having to go through the healing. They haven't achieved the situation and where you're at. And the only thing you can do is either remove yourself from their life, and a lot of times that wakes them up spiritually, but that's not a fail-safe. It's not to say if you leave the person you love that's struggling that, they're going to heal and get better. That's not necessarily how it's going to work. But sometimes people do need a wake-up call, and it's hard because, yes, we love people, especially it's hard when it's yourself. Because you're like, I can't walk away from me, but I've got to restructure my habits. Because the actions that we take become the course that we make, right? And then you have that course is full of habits, and that habit becomes your life. And then it just all of a sudden you're living in a certain way that's either in alignment or out of alignment with you. And it's when you begin to realize that you're out of alignment. That's where I was. That you have blockages. And it's certain choices. It's things that you're allowing in your life that you shouldn't necessarily allow. And that's the hard part because now you have to change. But then it's going, well, I don't know where to start. I don't really know. And the hard part is not knowing what is holding you back. So it's like trial and error. And it's almost like driving ourselves insane. That you want to do something and you don't know how to do it. It's like saying, I want to build a house. I don't know what materials I need, and I don't really know how to build it, but I believe I can do it. Eventually you can figure out what materials you need. Then you can figure out possibly how to do it, but it doesn't mean you did it correctly. And that could come crashing down on you. And that's the same thing with spiritual healing, that we pick and choose what needs to change in our lives. And of course, we're not always going to be, nailed it, got it, oh, we're all good now. Healing is a constant process. So even if you heal one aspect, doesn't mean you don't have anything left to heal. Don't let anyone be so arrogant that they convince you that they're healed. Even if you have conquered your addictions, there's other things you possibly do that need healing, and working with the kids I work with, I see the damage that's been passed down to them. Because one thing we forget when we're pregnant, when we create a life, that child is now given the genetics you had at the moment you created them. If you were dealing with being insecure, if you were dealing with fear, if you were dealing with addiction or being aggressive or toxic happy, whatever it is, you're going to see these traits come out in your children. And eventually when you look at them, if you're truthful with yourself, you'd be like, well, that's a little me. And then if you go back to where you were when you conceived them, you can actually find who you were as a person. My daughter and my son are very different from each other, but they're also 3 years apart. So that 3 years difference, I learned a lot. And I actually saw my ex regressing at that time. Trauma from the military, trauma from childhood abuse, trauma from what he was coping with. And I see that in my children. And it's weird because if you watch their face, you can tell who they are like that day, which parent they are more like. My children are like shapeshifters. And I've said this before. I know when to give them their space because they're acting more like their dad. I know when they're going to be more open to helping. They have more of a loving heart because they look more like me. But it's awesome when I see them look like neither one of us, because that shows me that they're healing. They're becoming themselves. And that's the goal for all of us, right? That we want to progress forward in life. We want to see our children do that. We want to see them achieve more than we could and hold themselves up higher than we could. But that's still the hard part, especially when you're in the middle of the battle. And just don't give up. Because like I said, I'm on day 5 right now. And if the devil ain't trying to mess with me, I don't know what else is. Like, this is normally the point where I'm like, I'm done. I don't care. I don't want to try anymore. But like I said, I've made a personal goal for myself. And if any of you are joining me on this, I'm sending you loads of love and light, because it is definitely a battle. And I keep sharing this with you. Like I said, I had planned 30 days for myself, just to prove to myself. Because most things are habits. There is an addiction there. And it's like with cigarettes, when you quit smoking cigarettes, first 30 days is that nicotine is still in your body. It's controlling you in a way. You're feeding that monster inside of you. After 30 days, it's a habit. It is a mental setback. So where cigarettes stay in your body longer, I see alcohol being a shorter chemical reaction rather than a mental mindset. Either way it goes, I just picked 30 days because it's 1 month. That we can do anything in a month. It's like if you want to go buy something and you have to save the money, you have to pluck and pull and give up certain things to get what you want. The more you're willing to sacrifice, the quicker it is the reward comes. So even though I chose 30 days for myself, doesn't mean that will be my stopping point. I'm just giving myself a goal that is realistic. Because I could have said a week, I can make it to a week, no problem. I've done it before. I've done it for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I've done it for 3 weeks. So it's pushing yourself to go a little bit further than what you've done before. And the more that you find, I can go a little further, I can go a little further. That's where you build up stamina. That's where you build up the ability to push back against those things that possess you. Because like I just told someone earlier, it's okay to have possessions, but don't let them possess you. When you get to that point of it's owning you, you're no longer in control of your life. And that's where people can use you, manipulate you, abuse you. You're hurting yourself. You're allowing others that hurt you to continue to hurt you. And honestly, for 2 days now, I have been dealing with me trying to get sick. And I swear it's that battle going on of me going, I can do this. And then all of the noise and chaos on the outside that's pushing me to go, just give up. Just give up. Whatever it is, it's a lot of stress. But that stress is worth it. Very seldom is stress worth it. But to fight back and push against something that's holding you back, it's stressful. But like I said, there's a reward after it. Even if it's that you find the value of yourself again. Even if you find that you have strength you didn't know you had. That can be done by challenging yourself. We challenge others so easily. But we tend to have a problem with challenging ourselves. And I think it's because we create limitations for ourselves. Like we sit there and we know our stopping point. When it comes to trying to better ourselves, it's funny, it's the opposite when it's a toxic situation. Like you go to the bar, you don't have a stopping point. It's when the music's over, they tell you last call, get the hell out. That's your stopping point. Things that are worthwhile, we tend to stop before we start. But things that are bad for us, we go in balls to the wall like, yeah, we're going to wreck this shop. And don't even matter if we're hurting ourselves in the process. And it's not our faults because we've been conditioned to believe that that which is easy is worth it, that which is hard is a waste of time. Why? Because most of us are taught we're going to be failures regardless. And that sucks. The school system teaches us that. A lot of our parents teach us that. The neglect from any type of love teaches us that. We teach ourselves that because we're missing certain things in life. It's just like if your diet is lacking in minerals and nutrients, your body begins to do things to let you know that it's lacking. You have to figure out what's missing. It's the same on a spiritual aspect. When you're lacking, you have to, like I said earlier in this video, you have to start trying to pinpoint. And that's the hard part because you don't even know what it is that's creating situations in your life that are holding you back. Even if you have the best paying job, that could be the thing that's holding you back. You're sacrificing your freedom. You're sacrificing your voice. You're sacrificing your ability to be different. You're hiding your gifts. And that's just one example of how we can think something is healthy for us, good for us. I'm doing it for my family. But deep down inside, it creates resentment, a little bit of hate, jealous because you don't have time to enjoy life with all that whatever abundance you're bringing into your world. So there's a point of trying to quit teeter-tottering and balance yourself to where you can begin to move forward. That's the hard part. Because even once you balance yourself, inside is still kind of like, whoa, whoa. And of course, when it was all out of balance, it was fun, especially as a child. As children, I've had to have talks with them that their parents should have already had with them. But a lot of them smirk and giggle and think it's funny until I have to explain the seriousness, and then they're kind of like, oh. And then I want to have all their parents come sit down and watch how their children interact with one another. Because honestly, if those parents are okay with that behavior, something's wrong. It's a crazy world. I will give it that. We've allowed it to become nonsense. Things that hurt us are acceptable. But things that benefit us are pushed off and shunned and called trendy and whatever it is. It's labeled as something that is going to pass, which is crazy. You know, we've had a lot of other individuals that have stood up and spoken. A lot of music artists And they've put it out in lyric for most people to try to comprehend the aspect of what we're doing to humanity. Bob Marley is one of those great speakers. John Lennon was one of those himself. Then you have other people that were political figures, other people that were just activists, humanitarians. You have individuals that have tried so hard to speak up, and amongst the toxicity, they are silenced. And that's the hardest part, because there's not a big group of humanitarians to come in and be like, no, let them speak. Shut your mouths and listen. It is time to get real. It is time to stop the fucking party. Turn the lights off. Turn the music off. Put the drinks down. There's nobody doing this. There is nobody speaking sanity into an insane world. And that's the part that really irks me. Because being a freedom fighter, we often do it alone. And it's funny, we're not even fighting for our own freedom. We're fighting for everyone else's. And the people that we're fighting for are the ones that spit in our face. The ones that mock us and train their children to ignore that. Why? Why is it okay for the devil to continue to have this as a playground? Why is it okay for people to accept toxic nature, even in their own life, rather than realize it's time to stand up and fight for something that matters? The heart. A fruitful mind. Unity. Take the bondage out of the situation. Those that want to be brainwashed, continue to be brainwashed, but shut the fuck up. Stop spreading your hate, your lies, your jealousy, your rumors, everything, because you're insecure about yourself. Because those of us that do stand up and say, you know what, I have a problem, and I've realized it starts with me. Shit, Michael Jackson wrote a song about that, Man in the Mirror, right? So when it comes down to it, the healing process starts with ourselves. And oftentimes we forget that nobody's going to save us. Especially when I look at these children or any of these people that are doing wrong and they get caught. And then they cry, Mommy, I want mommy. At some point, it is okay to love somebody that is struggling. But at some point, the hard part is you have to let them hit rock bottom. We can't be saviors to devils. And people that are dealing with their own devil. I'm sharing this story with you every day. Fighting him again. Not gonna win, because I'm fighting him again. Because we can fight other people's battles for them. But when we fight those battles for them, we are enabling them. We are letting them believe that their actions are excusable. There are no repercussions. And they can continue on and still come back to open arms. Like I said, the hardest part is letting somebody learn their lesson. When you are intervening on somebody receiving their lesson that is sent from a higher power to help them get on the straighter path in life, to help bring back humanity, you're blocking something that is from the divine. You are blocking your own blessings as long as you stay intertwined with these individuals. And it's hard, yes. There's been a lot of people I've had to let go of, shut the door on, no matter how much I loved them. And then as I got further and further away from them, I realized it was never love. It was more like Stockholm Syndrome. I talked about this the other day, falling in love with the captor. Because we can all start out in the same frequency. That's why we meet each other. But as some are leveling up and the other one's leveling down, now you're dealing with devils and angels. Of course, the angel always wants to come and save and help and bring you back to the light. But sometimes by trying to do that, that darkness drags you back down, and all you did was set yourself back. Like I said, I'm not telling you to turn your back on anybody, but we cannot keep enabling people to believing that I'm sorry is excusable. Because at some point, a coward is a coward and a warrior is a warrior. You have to ask yourself which spot you fit in. And when you can be truthful with yourself, as a warrior, you will find your soul family. You will go through heartache. You will go through the grieving process to get to it. But it's better to finally find yourself at home than to keep battling with lower entities that have no goal of becoming better. They get too much from being toxic. Let the toxic remain toxic. Keep trying to send love and light to those that you love, but always protect yourself. That was one thing I didn't do for years. I thought by protecting me, I was not being a good partner for my spouse at the time. And I've had to realize now, I fought as hard as I could. I made his demons my own. He walked away. I have no clue what happened to him. It's been 3.5 years. MIA. No responsibility, no help with his kids, but whatever. The devil left the building. And all it took was understanding myself, that I was worthy of love. I was worthy of fighting for myself. I was done fighting someone else's battle. So, I know that message was all over the place, but what comes out, comes out. So sending you peace, love, and light. Keep up the good fight. Bye-bye.